Coming up on Tech News Today, Google Plus gets game, thumbs nose at Facebook. Also, the last word on the patent mess, and PCs so over. We'll tell you why next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Thursday, August 11th, 2011. Tech News Today is brought to you by Netflix. Watch thousands of TV episodes and movies on your PC, Mac, iPad, iPhone, or TV instantly, all streamed directly to you, saving you time, money, and hassle. For your free 30-day trial, go to netflix.com/twit. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Sarah Lane.
I'm Iyaz, Akhtar.
And I'm Jason Howell.
And joining us from all the way across an entire continent is John Strickland from How Stuff Works and the Tech Stuff podcast.
Looks like your Skype is frozen.
No, he's just really good at that.
Yourself is frozen. How's it going, John? Thanks for joining us.
It's going really well. Thanks for having me back. Everything's going kind of crazy. Tech stuff's going well. I'm narrating the stuff of genius now, so they're putting me in charge of a lot of stuff.
You're narrating the stuff of genius.
Yes.
Is that just a general statement, or is that a product?
It's both. There is a video podcast called The Stuff of Genius that I narrate, but I also just walk around and point out when people do smart things.
Okay, good. That makes you perfect for the
Does that happen a lot in Atlanta?
More than you would imagine.
That's where Coke came from. A cola, not the other kind. Start off the story today. Just breaking, Google Plus gets a games tab if you're lucky. None of us have it yet.
No.
But Google has posted on their blog that it's rolling out slowly to people. And wow, were they catty about Facebook in their posting. They're like, we're going to have a games tab, but you're only going to be bothered by it when you're in the games tab. So when you're in the games tab, you can see what your friends are playing, but it's not going to go into your mainstream like some other social networks we could name.
Well, okay, so
That's not a quote, by the way.
you could, yeah,
It's
that's your
general
own
sense,
sort of
yeah.
inflection, but I think that that's a really good point to make because my initial reaction is, games is like Facebook games.
Like, yeah,
they obviously want
Yeah.
to make sure that they can differentiate themselves right off the bat by saying it's not going to be that inline, annoying, block the games type of a thing. It's more of an opt-in.
And it has Angry Birds.
Of course.
See, that is where they're not differentiating themselves because you can get Angry Birds everywhere.
And they say they're gonna roll it out very slowly to people, and they're actually gonna roll it out very slowly to developers as well. It's not open to all developers. You have to request to be added in. They're gonna add people in one at a time. They've only got 16 games here at launch. Things like Angry Birds, of course, Zombie Lane, Zynga Poker, Diamond Dash, Sudoku, Dragon Age Legends.
That sounds like it's good news for Zynga, actually.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
Google invested in them a while ago, and now that Zynga has another outlet outside of Facebook, they're not completely, their revenues and their future IPO is not determined based on Facebook anymore. And the thing about, they have some of the same games, but the thing for me was, I hated seeing, hey, this friend who hasn't talked to you in forever is like, please help me farm. It's like, I don't want to see this right now. This is ridiculous. But to see that it's nicely elsewhere, that's very, very nice. And I'd like to thank whoever put it in my Google Plus feed. I saw that. I'm like, hey, look, they got games.
Yeah, somebody got it.
Yeah, there's like 3 people I know who have it. So enjoy those for now.
I know. I've even logged out and logged back in a couple times, hoping that it would show up. But
Those are truly the coolest people on earth.
John, you don't have it
that's
either. huh?
right.
No, I do not have it yet. I do like this implementation a lot. I mean, like you guys are saying, the fact that it's not going to be right there in the middle of my stream and clogging that up. I could just imagine Scoble playing Angry Birds and then just 453 comments about it, and I can't read anything else in my stream. So the fact that it's going to have its own tab is I like that implementation, and I'll probably actually play the games.
I wonder how long it's going to take for them to implement Hangouts with the Games tab and kind of bring those together, because those just seem like a perfect fit to me. Bring the games into the Hangouts so that people get together, hang out, and play certain games with.
I don't know if you want your video.
Video would be good for poker. They're kind of like
but
those
even
games would be
audio,
like
though,
this.
it's like if you're playing some sort of a game where everyone's just sort of talking smack the whole time, Hangouts would just be flipping back and
It'd be
forth.
great, I think.
Really?
Well, I don't know if it's a public thing. With my friends, I think it'd be, actually quite amusing.
Yeah. An amusing experiment, for sure.
You turn it off after about 2 minutes.
All right. On a more serious note, Prime Minister David Cameron said in Parliament that the UK government is working with police, the intelligence service, and companies to, quote, look at whether it would be right to stop people communicating via these websites and services, referring to BlackBerry Messenger and Facebook and such, when we know they are plotting violence, disorder, and criminality. And wow, has this caused a firestorm. It's in response to the riots, and to put it in context, as part of a wider speech on the mistakes made by the police in dealing with the riots in London. Cameron said the police made mistakes. They did not treat it as a criminal enterprise, and instead they treated it as a public order enterprise. We're going to fix those mistakes. We're going to outlaw face masks. We're going to, do other, put curfews in place. And that's when he said, and we're considering looking at this. So in a speech where he said, we're doing X, Y, and Z, this was more of a like, and we're going to look at this, because I don't think he wanted people to freak out. But immediately people are saying that's a horrible idea. You should not cut off services when people need them just because of a few bad actors.
Now, I read this to be we would only limit services, like take Twitter, for example. They would suspend accounts for people that they that were suspected of being involved in criminal activity, like looting and riots.
Sure, and Facebook.
But then how do they figure out who those people are and not restrict access to someone like me, where I'm like, I didn't do anything?
Facebook has a policy of taking down content that threatens violence or might qualify as hate speech. So their reaction was like, we kind of already do this, so we don't have a problem. Twitter PR exec Rachel Bremer said, our only comment is that if the government would like to talk about this, we'd be happy to listen. I think they're sort of taking the opposite tactic of like, we don't know what you mean by this.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems crazily broad, too. It's like, okay, fine, you can do it with websites, Facebook, you can use Twitter, but there's email. There's all kinds of different ways. Phone calls. I mean, those aren't websites. You can't use, a phone call, it's not a website, but seriously, it seems like it could hit everything. It seems so broad that the other thing is they have to know when we know that this is what's being used. So are they monitoring everything at the same time? Are they paying attention to every single feed that's going on, encrypted communications? They're going to spend time doing that. It might have just been a prime minister just saying something because people are freaking out. They don't know what to do. We're just going to say, well, we'll try to stop this in the future, and this came out, I think. Yeah,
the diligence it would take to be able to target the right people and not the wrong people, I don't think anybody's going to take the time to do that. I think what will happen is if you're a suspect and we're on your friends list, then maybe all of our accounts are suspended because they're trying to be overcautious, and that's not fair.
Beyond all that, it's not that difficult to circumvent these kind of actions in the first place. If someone gets their Twitter feed banned, making a new Twitter account is not that difficult. So we're talking about a possible line of action that is not only potentially going to target the wrong people, but even the correct people, however you define that, could find ways around it unless you just shut down the system, in which case you're really talking about a catastrophic event there. I mean, it's essentially virtual martial law.
I'll be honest, I agree with all of the criticisms from Public Knowledge and the organizations who are saying don't do this, the way that they are interpreting it being said. But I believe that what the Prime Minister is saying is we have to look at this. And that's what he said. We're looking at this. We're considering what our options are. And I think there are some options that could be useful. For instance, 3 people were arrested by police in Southampton on suspicion of using social media and messaging to encourage rioting. So if you can prove that somebody is actually out there inciting violence in any way, whether it's shouting on a street corner or publishing pamphlets or the free speech has a limit. Right, and if someone is inciting breaking the law, you can go after them, and I think that may be appropriate. But when he said when people started looking at this as blocking, I think that's when I'm like, look, you don't take that tactic. That's what dictatorships do. They turn off services. You don't turn off services. You let people use them, and then you take what actions they have done on those services and hold them to account for those. And with that, you don't need new laws. You just you enforce the laws that already exist.
Moreover, you can actually pay attention to people who might be victims of these acts, who are using those same services to actually, essentially a cry for help. You can, if you're monitoring these services as a way to respond to things, I think that is a little more reasonable. Plus, all I can imagine is if they took the hardline stance of we are going to start shutting down these services, that's essentially offering an invitation up to Anonymous and other anti-sec groups to just jump on you.
Absolutely. All right, let's move to some more financial news. HTC is acquiring Beats Electronics. Those are the folks that bring you Beats by Dre, the headphones. It's run by Jimmy Iovine. I don't know why I have such a problem saying Jimmy Iovine's name. I want to say Levine or something, but it's Jimmy Iovine, star of American Idol, head of Interscope Records, and now employee of HTC. HTC bought a 51% stake in Beats Electronics for $309 million. Iovine will continue to run the company, and CEO of HTC, Peter Chu, said this will help us create an emotional connection to HTC's brand. And that is one thing HTC has fought against, is everyone loves Apple. Everyone loves Google, and therefore Android gets a little of that love. But HTC, you know, even Samsung has more love than HTC. So,
I'd like to go on record and say that I love HTC.
I'm a big fan of HTC myself. I think as far as the quality of hardware in the Android space, it's hard to beat them at this point.
See that, Peter Chu? You were loved.
That's exactly what Peter Chu wants.
And I didn't think that before this whole Beats by Dre thing, but now I totally do.
You didn't have to buy Dre. Well, and Jimmy Iovine is using this as a way to say, look, what we did with headphones is we said, the music sucks right now because the audio quality sucks. It's not that the music itself sucks, but the audio quality of music sucks, and we tried to improve that by giving you better headphones. Everyone told us that that was a mistake, that nobody cared about headphone quality. It was a commodity, and we proved them wrong. We're now going to do the same thing in devices. With HTC, he plans to make HTC devices higher quality audio devices. Now, Beats already has deals with HP for the touchpad and for HP desktops.
And laptops.
Do we think that we will see that continue? Do you think HTC will allow this to be licensed out to other companies? If HTC wants to use this to differentiate themselves, can they continue to make these deals with HP?
I think for HTC, this is flat out a revenue stream as well. I mean, if they have Beats, they're going to keep the licenses going. I mean, for HP to do something, that's fine. As long as HTC gets paid, that's the end of the day there, right? That's the real thing for them. And a lot of people freak out when companies buy other companies. They're like, oh, they're going to kill this. They're never going to have contracts again. It's like, the companies want to make money. They might not hang their hat on people buying HTC phones because they have these amazing audio quality. But the thing is, Android phones have gotten to the point where they are so similar to each other. You've got to do something to make them different. And to have better audio quality at this point is actually a pretty good idea because the capacity is there, cloud streaming is there, the speeds are there, so you can have higher quality audio. Because a couple of years ago, you'd probably be okay with a 64 kilobit per second track, but now even something like Spotify is streaming at a much higher rate. So I'm thinking this is going to be licensed. HTC is going to like it, and I think it will differentiate their phone a bit. But the question is, will people care?
Some people will care. I mean, we all know someone who's like the biggest audiophile in the world. It's not me, so this is not the sort of thing where if I've got two phones that are pretty much the same in every other way, and one has better audio quality, I might say, okay, why not? But it's probably not something that I'm going to notice. I mean, I even stream Pandora at a lower bit rate just because it keeps it a little bit more consistent when I'm mobile, because that's what I want, consistency, and I don't really know the difference. I mean, I know the difference, but I don't care that much. So I think they've got a market, but I don't think it's going to be this widespread new standard the way HD TVs have become, although that took a few years too.
I don't know, maybe it puts HTC in the same discussion as Apple. When you think of the iPhone, a lot of people have the iPhone because it's an amazing music player. So maybe that's what HTC is kind of trying to do here, also bring their Android phones into that same music space and possibly bring some people over from iPhone.
John, do you think that Beats has succeeded based on audio quality, or have they succeeded based on brand identification? Lady Gaga, Dr. Dre, Jimmy Iovine even has a lot of awareness out there with people who follow music.
I think it's definitely a combination of the two. I mean, brand recognition and celebrity status only goes so far. That might get you an initial round of sales, but you don't tend to build brand loyalty based just solely on an image for something like this. I think if the quality weren't there, we probably wouldn't have, we wouldn't hear about Beats anymore. But that being said, I don't own a pair of Beats headphones, so it's not like I can go back and do a quick test and tell you how good or how not good it sounds.
I think HTC probably did this because of the brand identification. they
Probably.
would have gone and bought a different headphone
It
company.
makes
I
HTC a
think.
little cooler, right? I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
Beats is identifiable that way. On top of that, I was just thinking about how, I mean, good audio qualities exist in audio players. The Zune actually was, a lot of audiophiles really liked the Zune for its audio quality because it had the right hardware inside, but that didn't save it. I mean, because it just didn't do as much. But then just adding this to HTC, I think, is a great thing. And maybe this will probably open the lines of communication between HTC and HP. I mean, HP was looking for a partner.
This goes back to what you said. We want to create an emotional connection. They bought it for the branding.
We also have some audio files in our chat room saying Beats headphones suck.
Yeah.
So it's
I know.
like, if they're not the best, then I don't even really know, what's HTC's argument, or HTC's argument.
Let's take a quick break and thank our sponsor, Netflix. Netflix.com/twit gives you a 30-day free trial. If you like television and movies and you hate limits, try it out. Netflix.com/twit. It allows you to stream unlimited movies and TV shows to your connected devices, smartphones, tablets, game consoles, televisions. A lot of televisions have Netflix built right in. So tell a friend, tell a neighbor, tell a relative. Try it out yourself. Netflix.com/twit. We thank them for their support of Tech News Today. Nilay Patel wrote a very good column on thisismynext.com today about the patent system. We talk about patents almost every day these days. We've talked about it on several shows on TWiT today. Jimmy
Iovine has nothing to do with this.
Jimmy Iovine hasn't talked about patents a whole lot.
He may have.
But Mark
a thought
Cuban,
about
who
patents.
often gets confused with Jimmy Iovine because they've both had guest slots on Entourage, Mark Cuban wrote a post earlier this week about patents. And I think that probably got Nilay finally to say, look, I want to lay this all out. Iyaz, you actually laid it all out for us earlier this week. What did you think of Nilay's column?
I was actually thrilled to see it because I saw him like, hey, I made that point on Tuesday. All right, cool. And Nilay Patel is a genius. Flat
You're
out.
like, right on, brother.
I was excited about this, and he was basically explaining something simple. First, there's no such thing as software patents, which is a big thing, a misconception by everyone. It's not like it's broken out.
There's not like a category for software.
No, it's patents. Okay, and it's patents for software, patents for this, patent for that. So it's a super category. There's no like little categories under there. There's some great quotes in here. What I got to say though is, if you have the time, read this thing word for word if you care about the whole patent stuff that's going on right now, because this is like the definitive piece right now on this. And he makes the points about this being a public exchange. The inventors are putting their information out there. That's very important. There's no software patents, and he even lays out some several potential solutions out there, and we'll talk about the solutions in a minute.
Yeah, this is an essential if you really want to understand what is going on with all of the patent wars and patent reform and whether there should or should not be software
before you make
patents.
an opinion on like patents are evil or no, they're great, or you should definitely read this.
And I would read Tim Carmody's article over at Wired. Well, he points out that patents are essential for the startup economy because a lot of people see it as a hedge against a company failing. You're willing to pour some money into a startup and risk failure if you know there's a few patents there that can be cashed out at the end as a hedge. And that structure would be removed if software was declared you can never patent any kind of software. But some other things in addition to what Iyaz said. The public aspect of patents means innovation doesn't end up hidden as a trade secret. So don't forget the benefits to software of patents. Once the patent for iOS, all of those patents expire. Once the patents on PageRank for Google expire, everyone knows how they work. Everyone can use them. If they weren't patented, they could be held secret forever. That's the formula for Coca-Cola
That's a trade secret. That's hidden. That's why there's roofs and covers and everything like that.
The courts have found various ways to get around the fact that math isn't patentable to allow software patents, and Nilay goes through a good history of where we are now, which is basically nobody knows for sure. It's changed so many times. The last thing, in 1998, software was patentable as long as it yielded, quote, a useful, concrete, and tangible result. That was overturned in a case called Bilski, which was then gutted by the Supreme Court. So we really kind of unsure where patent law is for software right now, and he's got some great suggestions of what we should do. He says we should add a software patent section to Title 35 of the patent law and maybe consider limiting software terms to reflect the pace of the industry. I like this one a lot, which is to say, look, a term of a patent set by Thomas Jefferson for building a chair or a patent or a cotton gin in the 1700s is not an appropriate term for software where things move so much faster. Let's have 3 to 5 years, maybe. Let's change the way that works. Let's at least consider that. And also providing a mechanical licensing mechanism. So maybe after a certain period of time, your ability to turn down licensing goes away, and you have to grant licensing at a reasonable cost so that you can't just hoard a patent and constantly sue people without allowing them to use your invention. But he also points out that the gold rush on software patents may cause future attempts to be deemed obvious, because that 1998 rule allowed a gold rush of people to go and patent things. We may have patented all of the obvious stuff at this point, and once those patents run out, there may not be a lot of software patents.
I mean, I really like this point about the shortening the terms on patents for software, and that's an interesting idea. But the thing is, if you're going to spend the amount of time it takes to create something, right? So let's go beyond software here, but you have to invest time and effort into some of this stuff. And like the startups, the only thing they might have is something like a patent. So you might not spend years. Like Apple said, we were developing this for years. Would you spend 3 to 4 years if you only have 5 years of a monopoly on this? That's the real question. Will it stop things from coming out because of that? And that's the theory behind patent, is to, well, spur innovation as well. It's supposed to go, hey, you worked on this for 5 years, but you have the exclusive right. Like if you're Pfizer, you've been working on this for 5 or 6 years, you have this for 20 years.
Yeah, but with software, things move so fast. I think what frustrates people is suddenly something is out there like a slide to unlock. They're like, okay, yeah, you came up with that first. You've had it for 2 years. Everybody uses that now, and that's just the pace of the industry. That's the counter argument.
That always drove me crazy. It was like, well, they came up with this. Well, then why didn't anybody else do it? Like if it's so obvious, why didn't anybody else who could have done this? Google could have done this.
Well, and prior art sometimes you know is like, well, that wasn't done on a phone. That was done in this other place, and it's like, well, all a phone is a small computer. So if we take all of the metaphors from computers and put them on phones, are they suddenly patentable?
But was it obvious? The thing is, nobody had done it before. That's this big thing. I don't know if it's
I think you could say
fair
it is.
to say.
And I think that's why Nilai's saying
everyone's doing it 2 years
we
later.
should have it lined out.
Right.
Rules for
because right
software.
now it's not laid out.
Yeah.
It's in this. It's stuck with every other patent law. So it's not singled out. So you don't have a full set of. Well, this is the software patent law. Well, we don't have that.
And what about the idea of limiting damages, which I guess would be based on, I don't know, market cap of the company or revenue? I mean, like, you wouldn't have, if a company like Google should be ordered to pay somebody else's patent in a much bigger amount than a little RDO.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing like
10 employees.
There are like things like the coffee spill, like in McDonald's, right? It should the fine should be commensurate with the parties involved.
Like with LoadSys,
right?
When they're
suing a bunch of little app developers to make a lot of money.
I mean, it's like how much did that developer make last year?
But that's something that's usually
maybe not very much at all.
Something that's taken into account by courts. But if it was codified, it'd be kind of nice.
John, what are your ideas? Do you think does this change your opinion on what we should do about patents?
My opinion has pretty much been that the system isn't entirely broken in the first place. So my opinion hasn't completely changed. It was really reinforced by a lot of what I've read today. I think also on the limitation of damages, we're not just talking about how big the company that's getting hit by the charges, how big that company is. We're talking about companies like what we tend to call patent trolls, these companies that buy up lots and lots of patents but never seem to actually act on them in any way other than litigation. I think that was another interesting point, is the idea of finding a way to limit that, where you don't get rid of it, because that would kind of shake things up, I think, too much. But you would want to look at maybe limiting that so that you don't have the incentive for companies to just sit on hundreds of patents, never intending to license them in any way, but rather litigate whenever anyone seems to infringe on them. And that way it actually gives these companies the incentive to license it out rather than sue everybody. And then you've got this technology that actually becomes available for companies that are able to pay for it.
All right, well, that's enough of the philosophy. Let's actually talk about some of the actual patent news. We're gonna need a patent wars graphic. Jason's working on this for the ongoing coverage of the long drawn-out patent wars. This is the state of the patent wars today. LG and Sony have declared peace. Basically, they dropped their patent infringement lawsuits and struck a cross-licensing agreement. FARC has defeated a patent troll. They've settled for $0
real quick, go back to the LG thing. That what you just read there, drops patent infringement lawsuits and strikes cross-licensing agreement. That's what we hear at the end of almost all of these things.
Yeah,
Which
that's
is
right.
like
that's what it's
that's
all
why I'm
about.
always like, well, yeah, of course it's going to end up this way.
That's when they measure their piles of patents and decide on an
Yes.
agreement. And finally, Google has asked the International Trade Commission judge to sanction Microsoft in Microsoft's case against Motorola over Android. Google says that Microsoft revealed highly confidential Android source code to an expert witness, Robert Stevenson, in violation of the court's rules. Google says they should have had a chance to review the credentials of Stevenson before he was shown the code, and they should have had a chance to object. Google wants the ITC judge overseeing the Microsoft Motorola case to stop Stevenson from testifying, and they've asked Microsoft to respond by August 15th. Now, John, you were saying that one of the reasons that Google was so bent out of shape is because this guy has done stuff for Microsoft.
That's a possibility. I mean, honestly, we just don't have a whole lot of information here, so it's kind of hard to draw real conclusions. But based upon what I've read, I would say that you were talking about Microsoft giving a subpoena to Google saying we need this information, Google complying because they're following the subpoena, Microsoft saying, well, we're going to show this to an expert witness, and then Google finding out the expert witness is someone who has worked with Microsoft and HP, and both of those companies are Google competitors. That's where this situation gets really sticky. And again, this is one of those situations where we really need more information than what we have to truly get a grip on what's happening here.
It's also interesting that it's Microsoft pitted against Motorola here, but then Google's like, well, wait a second.
They're riding
That's
to the
a Motorola
rescue.
phone running Android.
Yeah.
This has to do with us, too.
Larry Page did say that we'll make sure everything works out okay for our hardware partners.
Thank you, Larry.
Eric Schmidt said that. Yeah.
Thank you, Eric.
So Eric riding to the rescue, sort of.
This is all going to be okay.
Yeah.
The white horse.
Meanwhile, PCs are dead.
Oh.
Good.
Well, sort of. Mark Dean.
Weird, because I'm using one. I
Nope.
didn't realize that
No.
it's
Not
dead.
personal enough.
You're living in the past, Sarah Lane. Mark Dean worked on the IBM 5150, which turns 30 years old tomorrow. It was the first IBM PC, released August 12th of 1981. And he wrote a blog post commemorating that anniversary today, saying, I personally have moved beyond the PC.
Have you, Mark?
My primary computer now is a tablet.
Oh,
I don't know if he
interesting.
talks like this, but when I helped design the PC, he gets some cred for that. When I helped, not too many people get to say that. When I helped design the PC, I didn't think I'd live long enough to witness its decline. They're no longer at the leading edge of computing. They're going the way of the vacuum tube, typewriter, vinyl records, CRT, and incandescent light bulbs. Wow.
Well, I think that's a bit of an exaggeration.
I know, we're still
to
using
compare
incandescent
PCs
light
to
bulbs.
vinyl records. which
Vinyl's
are-
making a
Well,
comeback.
and
Yeah,
I
in
own
a
vinyl.
nostalgic way, but it's not as if
I don't see a whole lot of people using
I
vacuum
consider
tubes. So.
my PC is right now my most powerful computer. I have a few different kinds of computers, but the PC is the one that I use when.
I'm actually still using vacuum tubes in my guitar. I still am.
This guy's argument's
I
full
think-
of holes.
I think if you really read into it a little further, it becomes less of a you wouldn't have such a knee-jerk reaction. I mean, because the way the title of the headlines are all coming out, it sounds like he's just pronounced that the PC is done. That's it. That's not really what he's saying. He's saying that we're using computers in a different way now. We're using devices that are not your traditional PC a lot more frequently than we used to. And I think that's true. I think people, the average person, outside of whatever job they do, I think you're seeing a lot of people using these mobile devices much more frequently than they would a PC. And so that's why it's titled a post-PC era. It's not saying that the PC is gone. It's not saying it's irrelevant. It's not saying we're never going to use it. It's just that it's no longer the central technology that we use for computing.
Also, IBM sells solutions, so it's in their best interest to have a post that says, hey, you know what? We sold off our PC business to Lenovo about 6 years ago, and I know we're making a big deal about celebrating the advancements in the PC we did back in the 80s, but we didn't make a mistake because the PC is dead, and you can buy solutions.
Dean uses a tablet. IBM doesn't make a tablet, so that's at least somewhat honesty there. I mean, it does sound a little bit
But if you read the
self-serving,
post, he's basically saying, and here at IBM, we understand that it's the relationships between people that are important, and that's what we sell: services and relationships
got a lot of
and
voices,
solutions. And I know he's a man
also
of many
sounds
voices.
like Pia.
So I feel like this is really not a marketing post, but it is a self-serving post, a way of IBM saying, yes, we did help bring the PC into the modern era in the 80s, and we don't do that anymore, and this is why. But there's an element of truth into it. I think that's why so many people picked it up, because we are going beyond the PC. I don't think the PC is dead, though.
I always think it depends on what the definition of a PC is anyway.
Well, the PC it used to mean one very specific thing. It's a computer on a desk, and you sit there and you do whatever you're doing.
Yeah, personal
When you get up
computer.
and walk away, then you go do something else.
Did the
And
laptop
now
break that?
It's a different world. Yes, but it's...
This is a PC, though.
You're right. Well, okay, so even
about your
with
tablet?
the introduction of laptops, things started to change, and that was quite a few years ago. So we're in a post-PC era, Iyaz.
Oh, are we? Okay.
Yes.
We're in a post-computer era because the computer person that enters data no longer does that.
I think we're in a
Use
pre-news
devices
era.
for
Sometimes they do.
We are in the news fuse era now. Excited about Android's upcoming ice cream sandwich update?
Of course we are.
Yes.
Yeah. Every time we talk about ice cream sandwich, Sarah Lane gets hungry. So here, have it.
They're all-
Ice cream sandwich.
I'm sorry, John. Though I can't fax you one or something.
Thank you.
I'm hurt.
Here,
I am so hurt.
Chad, can you take that over to Jason for us? All right.
You know that question, what would you do if a Klondike bar?
Yeah.
Talk about ice cream sandwich.
The new version of the Android OS can be seen running on a Nexus S in a set of newly leaked photos. Changes shown include a revamped notification bar, a new launcher, and an overall blue theme that matches the look of current Honeycomb devices. The Nexus Prime is expected to be the first phone to receive the new version of the OS.
Anonymous and political hacker crew Team Poison, that's Big T, Big M, Big Zero, Big N, have decided to do something that, well, I certainly didn't see coming. Release a song, like real music. The two groups announced that they are currently working with an unnamed artist, probably a really good one though, and will flood channels like YouTube and iTunes with the song once it's done. No word on the genre of music, but proceeds of the song will apparently go to charity. To quote the release, once this hits the charts, radio stations will, by law, have to play it.
I'm not sure that's true.
Where is that a law?
I don't think that's a law.
Maybe in Canada.
Maybe they'll change the law.
So you think your smartphone's all fancy with its bright touch screen, but it's virtually useless without power. But UCLA may have come up with the solution by creating a new type of photovoltaic polarizer, which it calls polarizing organic photovoltaic. It would charge the battery of a device by harnessing energy from the backlight of your screen. The polarizer would also charge a battery using sunlight or ambient light. So that's kind of neat.
Twitter just made its new Twitter interface default for all, and it's already starting to change that interface. The @mentions tab is going to be replaced with two tabs. One will be @your username, which will show you mentions, retweets, and when someone adds you to a list. The second tab is called Activity, and it shows you the same information, but related to people you follow, like if your friend is retweeted, that kind of stuff. These changes started rolling out yesterday, so look for them to come to you soon.
Delicious ice cream sandwich. But on to Hulu news. Guess what? Hulu's for sale. Hulu's put itself up on the auction block, and lots of big tech players have been linked to negotiations. We've talked about some of them already on the show. Peter Kafka over at All Things D is reporting the first bids for the streaming video service will be in by the end of next week. So I would like to know who's going to take over Hulu. Tom.
DirecTV.
Iyaz.
Private group of investors.
Jason.
Netflix.
Wow.
Jonathan Strickland.
I'm not allowed to say.
That was the best. Okay. It's that
Well,
one.
I guess we know the answer now.
Europeans can still buy the Galaxy Tab in the Netherlands for a couple more months. The presiding judge called the lawyers terriers and said his will come September 15th. And if there's an injunction, it won't take effect until October 13th. So much more patient and relaxed than the Germans.
We need an answer now. Get ready for the next generation 911. FCC Chairman Julius Janikowski announced that the U.S. emergency telephone number will be able to handle more than just phone calls eventually. Next generation 911 will be able to handle video, texts, photos, and, of course, voice calls to respond to emergencies. We've heard this before, so what's the timetable, Janikowski? 5 to 10 years.
T-Mobile, sorry, I have a lot of ice cream sandwich in my teeth at
there's a
this
lot of
point in the
snatches
show.
going on.
It's like having a conversation with 4 people on the phone, all of whom are eating. It's just,
I'm also
This should be
well
a
aware that this tends to stick to teeth.
Well,
so I'm
it is
are
an
you
ice
gonna
cream
talk about
sandwich
good?
leak.
Right. That's exactly very
big Google
good.
Hangout.
Very good. See, this is, yeah. T-Mobile will no longer throttle you when you go over your data limit on one of its 2 basic plans. Great news, right? Well, starting August 14th, you won't be throttled when you exceed your limit. You'll just be charged 10 cents per megabyte up to a maximum payment of $40 or $45 depending on your plan. Customers will be notified when they get to 90% of their limit. Customers of the 2 gigabyte plan will still get throttled to 2G speeds when they pass their limit. Sweet.
People burned by the Netflix price increase may have turned to other ways to get DVDs like Redbox. Well, Redbox and Foursquare are partnering up in a promotion that runs from August 15th to August 24th. If you check in at a kiosk using Foursquare, you can grab yourself a discount code that could take somewhere between 10 cents and $1 off the rental price of a game or a movie.
You got something right there.
Right.
On your, right there. Right there.
So while you guys are all there eating your ice cream sandwiches, I managed to find a stale gingerbread cookie down here. So
Gingerbread, that's so current.
You must be
OS.
on an AT&T phone.
We're on the G2.
yeah, no, G2 does not actually. My G2
mangoes?
does not have gingerbread yet.
All right, let's move on to randomizer.
Randomizer.
For all intents and purposes, Sony's face-to-avatar blimp is a motorized blimp with a front-facing camera, microphone, a built-in projector, and a Wi-Fi module. Why am I talking about it? Because it's been floating around and spookily haunting people at Seagraph up in Vancouver. It hovers above crowds in order to showcase an image of what's below or display an image of whatever's being streamed to its wireless apparatus, which means you actually just see someone's disembodied head floating above you, and then there's a webcam attached to it that actually allows you, as the disembodied head person, to see what the balloon is seeing as it floats above everybody.
That's weird.
I mean, this looks so Big Brother. It's just like, could you imagine seeing this thing floating around as like a concert or something? Or
It's just weird with the head. Just a
I want an army of them.
just a Jonathan Strickland heads.
Yeah, finally it'll match my ego.
Where will you store them?
Well, they're inflatable, so you can deflate them when you're not.
Just roll it under the bed when you're not using it?
Exactly. And then you could telecommute real easily. Like you could just show up right here on TNT. It'd be great.
Exactly. I'm not going to drive up here anymore.
On the whole mile.
I got a helium head now.
don't we all? On the calendar.
On this day in 1942, Hedy Lamarr, who was once described by German actor-director Max Reinhardt as the most beautiful woman in all of Europe, received a U.S. patent for a frequency-hopping device that was designed to guide radio-controlled torpedoes while making them more difficult to detect in water. It proved to be one of the forerunners of spread-spectrum communications, which has applications in satellite systems and cell phone technology of today.
Hedy Lamarr.
Hedy Lamarr.
Patent
She
troll.
was
Who was early?
awesome.
No.
Her first patent troll. No.
Go Hedy.
We're just kidding.
We also have a birthday to celebrate. It is the birthday of one Steve Wozniak, co-founder of Apple, turns a young 61.
Doesn't look it.
No, he really doesn't.
It's all the segue writing.
Sprite.
Yeah,
Young.
keeps you young and
That's the
fit.
thing. Midlife crisis, get a Segway. You look 20 years younger.
Yeah, a
If not
red
30.
Segway.
Right. Happy birthday, Woz. God love you.
Love you, Woz.
Walmart and Target can both claim first by cutting the asking price for the Nintendo 3DS down from $250 to $170. This actually started out as just in store this morning, but throughout the day has spread to each store's website. So it's $170 across the board.
Just spread like a virus.
Yeah, like
That
lice.
discount it's not supposed to come till
Lice is a
tomorrow.
virus.
They're like totally jumping the gun.
But lice spreads easily, is my point. So does pink eye. It's also the last day to register for Nintendo 3DS games. You have to register by 11:59 p.m. Eastern. Why the crickets? Why the crickets?
That was a delayed response. but they were appropriate 10 seconds ago.
We'll fix it in post.
Yeah.
It's a small window for crickets, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
11:59 p.m. Eastern time. So that's not really very long from now.
No, most people by the time they listen or watch this podcast probably have missed
So if you're
that.
watching live, tell your friends
Yes,
right now.
Yeah,
yes.
exactly.
You have a
Running
few
out of
more
time.
hours for 20 free games. Dell has introduced slimmed down Inspiron 13Z, and 14Z laptops. They have aluminum lids, which are actually really nice looking, and they have USB 3.0.
Very nice.
I like the look of them. Yeah, they're kind of that brushed metal type.
13Z is available now in the U.S.
IFA Berlin kicks off September 2nd, and PocketLint is reporting that Windows Phone Mango is going to launch there on the 1st. That's a whole day before the show opens.
You know, that's what they do at CES. They always leak out their announcements the day before the show opens. So
it's like
it could be
nobody
true.
wants to be overshadowed, so the announcements keep getting
Yeah,
earlier
yeah.
and earlier. So get to Berlin a day
This
early.
is actually a CES announcement.
Right. On Live, the cloud gaming service, is going to hit the UK like a ton of bricks.
Hey, the UK is tired of that.
That's true. Actually, it's not going to
It'll
do
be
that. It's
gently
it's gonna waltz in and hug the UK on September 22nd.
Tiptoe in respectfully.
That's right. That's
Top
right.
it.
Hopefully,
Yeah,
the
just-
government will not shut down on live.
exactly.
Finds out that
That would, that
Yeah,
would
as long
be-
as
that would not be
no one
good.
is using OnLive to coordinate riots, they should be okay.
Finally, Dell's Latitude XT3 is available for pre-order and should come your way on September 22nd.
On to the voicemail. We got John sent us actually a video mail that shows an example of prior art. This is interesting. John, show us what you got.
John Poshek from Kamloops, British Columbia. And this here is my Toshiba M200 tablet PC from 2004. And this is an iPad 2. So my question is, when is Toshiba going to sue Apple for the design of the M200? Thanks, guys. Love the show.
Now, on the audio podcast, you can't see it, but the Fujitsu tablet from 2004, mind you, is just bigger than the iPad. But from the front, where he was showing it, it looked the same. In fact, it was bigger, though. I don't think I'd confuse those.
Get what's due to you, Toshiba.
Is that prior art?
I don't. Well, the stuff that Apple's using right now is law that's outside of the United States. So
Well, I know, but just
prior
for
art,
argument's
that
sake.
the way you're using prior art doesn't apply.
Because
That's
it's a
the thing.
trademark thing. It's not even a patent
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, you're right. All right, fine. Sorry, John.
A good try.
But could Fujitsu have gone after Apple for a community design thing if all of the registration?
I seriously doubt it.
Yeah. All right. On to the email.
First email from Aaron, who says, hey, HTV-2B did not actually launch yesterday. It was scrubbed due to poor weather over the
that was the
Pacific
Mach
Ocean.
20 plane. Ah,
Yeah,
it didn't
that
launch.
whole DARPA project. We talked about it once the show was over, but yes, thank you for reminding us. Okay, so it actually did end up blasting off from Vandenberg Air Force Base in California at 7:45 a.m.
Oh, so it didn't launch yesterday when we talked about it, but it launched.
morning.
Exactly. Yeah,
launched
it was set for this morning, but then the U.S. military lost contact with it after it launched. So, don't know where.
If you're going to go Mach 20, you should have a good tracking system.
It
You'd think.
probably looped around the sun and went back in time.
Wherever it went fast.
I think it just gained sentience, and now it's living out the high life in some tropical wonderland.
Mach 19. That's what happened to it at Mach 19. Sentience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Little known
I
fact.
usually lose sentience right around Mach 19.
Did it have a plutonium-based
1.21 gigawatts.
gigawatts? Yeah. Did it, it's definitely faster than 88 miles an hour. So,
I don't know. Where are you, vehicle?
1955.
Greg Lane, any relation?
Probably.
Yeah.
There are a lot of us.
Wrote in there and said, I don't know if this is new, but as far as I'm concerned, Facebook has done about the dodgiest thing they have done so far in terms of privacy. If you run the Facebook app for iPhone, the app has uploaded all your contacts to Facebook. If you go to Account, Edit Friends, then click on Contacts at the far left, you should see every contact from your phone address book with phone numbers, both people who are on Facebook and ones that are not. I guess I missed the terms of service in Facebook where they said they were entitled to upload all my data on my phone. Facebook actually says we are not stealing your phone numbers and posting them so everyone can see. TechCrunch had a post about this August 10th. They say our contacts list, formerly called Phonebook, has existed for a long time. The phone numbers listed there were either added by your friends themselves and made visible to you, or you have previously synced your phone contacts with Facebook, just like on your phone. Only you can see these numbers.
So the shorthand is don't get outraged now. We did this a while ago.
Yeah, exactly. And I looked, and my contacts are up there as well, which makes me think I don't remember syncing my Facebook contacts with with Facebook. And granted, they are only visible to me in my account, which Facebook has never had a data leak, so I'm not worried about that.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I can see why somebody would get upset about this. I think the only thing that would bother me is that I know I've got contacts on my phone that aren't my Facebook friends.
Yeah, same here.
So
That's
then
how
it's
I
just
know
kind of
yeah.
messy. And I don't really like that portion of it, or not having avatars, that kind of thing. But if Facebook has put so much effort into being able to message people and chat and then post to walls and using your phone number as a communication device that's all one kind of all-encompassing communication tool, I see where they're going.
Yeah.
I see where they're not necessarily trying to screw anybody over.
Last email from Alan. He says he's the web front-end engineer, And he says, you guys were talking about how Amazon's new ebook web app didn't look quite right on the iPhone because HTML5 isn't ratified yet. I'm sad to say that even if HTML5 was ratified, it wouldn't make that big of a difference. HTML5 isn't a magic bullet that makes web apps work across browsers and hardware, like IE9, mobile, low-power CPUs, no GPU acceleration. And web engineers still often choose to optimize for one or two target browser
That just
types.
begs the question, though, which is why aren't the browsers that are supposedly standards compliant? If they were, and there's a standard ratified, then they would all render things the same, theoretically.
Yeah, developers shouldn't have to be choosing.
They shouldn't. They always have had, because the browsers always add in things and
That was the
change
whole
things. Yeah.
point of HTML5.
Logic and web design, what was with you guys? Why would you think that has
A
to
girl
be there?
can dream.
This is silly.
Hey, you know what is logical? Using the TriCaster 850, which is
Yeah,
like
it
having your own
is.
giant TV truck. Jason's using it right now. He can use it to do HD. He can do virtual sets. He can do all kinds of cool stuff, thankfully. And it's made your job easier, the new one, right?
Oh yeah, it's way easier now. They've got the macros are what it's all about. The programmable keys so that the lower thirds follow me. I don't have to do two things at once. It's awesome.
To find out more about TriCaster, visit newtek, NEWTEK.com. Thanks to our Redditors at technewstoday.reddit.com. All those folks out there giving us ideas for stories we should use on the show. Thanks to Chimera96, CompFixer87, SciSpud, The Moke, DNell MS44, and more. And also don't forget you can still get bricks to put up in the studio. Put your own message in the studio at bricks.twit.tv. John Strickland, thank you so much for joining us. It's been too long. Really
I
good to have
agree.
you back.
I agree. I really look forward to coming back on the show again. I really enjoy doing Patent News Today. It's a great show. I'm really, it has been too long. So let's not let that happen.
You know
again.
what you did while you weren't here.
Yeah.
You know what? I wanted to apologize to you for having some non-patent stories in the lineup. We'll make sure that that's different next time. Let folks know about the Tech Stuff podcast and Voice of God stuff you're doing.
Sure. All right. So I'm a senior writer with HowStuffWorks.com, and we have a ton of different podcasts, but the one that I co-host is called Tech Stuff, which publishes on Mondays and Wednesdays, and we just take a tech topic and kind of deconstruct it. We talk about sort of social impact. Sometimes we'll just take an object like air conditioning units and talk about exactly how they work. So it's kind of an interesting grab bag that you get with our podcast. And I also narrate a video podcast called The Stuff of Genius. So if you want to learn about various inventors and geniuses and you want to hear me talk about them, you should check that one out. I also occasionally walk around behind smart people and point out how smart they are.
That's awesome. It's a public service.
It's a living.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching or listening. You can find us on the web, twit.tv/TNT. You can email us, TNT@twit.tv, or give us a call. Leave us a short, concise, and genius message, and John Strickland will tell you you're a genius, and we'll play it on the show. 260-TNT-SHOW. See you tomorrow.